Everyone, for me, Brent Graham of goodforthegame.co.za. It's time for the Handicap Rugby Chat that matters. We're talking finals rugby this weekend. We've got the big Super Rugby final between the Blues and the Chiefs. And then, of course, a URC final between the Bulls and Glasgow. And I decided we've already had a comment in the live chat, which means it's working this week, not like last week. And I decided to bring that comment up straight away. Mark Dumphy saying, I'm still in mourning after last week. Of course, Leinster fans. And for that matter, those of us who back Leinster as well are kind of still in mourning as well, Mark. I can tell you, as much as I laud the Bulls' performance, and it was a great for South African rugby, my money was firmly on Leinster, as everybody knows. It wasn't a great result for me. But let's introduce the panel. One of them has just snuck into the bottom of the screen, but we'll start at the top. And it's at the Crow Tips. Chris, great to have you back on the show, mate. I know you haven't been well. You feeling better?
Yeah, thanks, Brent. Yeah, I wasn't well, no, but yeah, feeling a lot better, thank you. It's getting quite chilly now as well. The winter's coming in, but yeah, feeling a lot better and just cruising on.
Excellent. Well, I'm sipping on a cup of tea, and I imagine there in New Zealand, Auckland, New Zealand, he's probably got a cup of coffee or tea near him as well. There we go. It's the Moss Man. And Nathan, welcome back to the show, mate.
Yeah, I actually been in Australia on a work trip, so there's some flight delays. I didn't get in until after 1 o'clock last night, and it's 7 a.m. here. So yeah, probably not feeling the sharpest, I think it's fair to say.
No problem. Well, the good news is we've only really got 3 games that we'll touch on properly. Well, there are a few other games taking place this weekend, and I'll certainly open it up to you boys to have a chat on that. But end of a long season, I guess, for yourself, Nathan. I know we did chat about it last week. The internationals coming up. The time for you to switch off a little bit after this. Yeah,
it'll be a bit of a break from the grind. Yeah, so it'll be nice to actually just watch some rugby as a fan for a bit.
Enjoy it. And Chris, yourself, I mean, I must say, personally, I do enjoy the internationals as far as betting goes. And we've got quite a few. I mean, as South Africa, whether you're South African or Irish, it's one hell of a series. 2-match series, unfortunately, coming up. But that should be absolutely cracking. You looking forward to the internationals?
Yeah, internationals is probably been my favorites. It's always been my favorites. I love. It's always you almost pretty much get it to form lines, which is great. And yeah, it's my favorite. I love it, especially the mid-year tests here in the Southern Hemisphere, especially. Yeah.
Yeah, well, we got one test we'll certainly talk about this week. That's South Africa against Wales, and it's a bit of an interesting one because there are a lot of players who, for various reasons, cannot play in the game. We've got 2 very different looking sides, but let's get stuck into the action. And we're going to start off with the Super Rugby final. We've got the Blues here, -5.5 against the Chiefs, and a points line of 49.5. And given this game is taking place in Auckland, let's kick off with Nathan on this one.
I'm projecting this game at around about 4, so favouring the Chiefs, but I think I can get a better number than the one that's on screen. So I think I may. I mean, as I said, I've been out of the loop kind of thing for the last couple of days, but I suspect that closer to kick-off, it's probably going to drift a little bit. And we'll probably see something around sort of 6.5. Yeah, I see the comment there about Super Rugby sold out. It is sold out. I will be there at this one. Nice. In enemy territory, obviously, being a Chiefs fan. So, but I just I sort of said before the quarterfinal that I thought the Chiefs had another gear that we hadn't seen, and I think we've seen that extra gear, I think 2 weeks in a row now. So, they've got that pedigree. It's going to be, a very difficult game, but like a lot of finals, I think it'll be closer than a lot of people think. So, if I could get 6.5, or geez, even better, I'm definitely leaning Chiefs.
I think you're right. I think the money's going to come late for the Blues there, and it might just pop out of it. We'll come back to you. I want to just talk to you about the points as well, Nathan. But let's go up to Chris. I brought up World Sports Betting logo, and I'll explain why when I talk about the Bulls game. But Chris, what do you think of this one? I mean, this handicap is actually exactly where I said it at 5.5. So I didn't see any obvious value. Nathan leaning Chiefs. What are you leaning here?
Yeah, I'm also leaning Chiefs. Maybe a little bit more than a lean, but more of a medium confident punt. Yeah, I think I probably had it about 3, so 4, maybe 3.5, 4. Yeah, so we all in the same range. Yeah. So at this number, it's definitely a Chiefs play. And I agree, if you just look at the teams, I don't think there's too much to separate between the two. I still think that Mackenzie and then 9-10 have Chiefs halfbacks have the edge on the Blues. Blues is going to be one hell of an atmosphere, which is going to be great, but Blues can easily be a damn squid. And I just think, as Nathan has mentioned, the Chiefs have slowly gained that momentum, and I actually think they're in this game. I think they're actually in with a good shot. If you want to have some value, you could even back the Chiefs to win here, because the Blues can freeze. Maybe it's their time now with Cotter. Maybe he's got them more level-headed for a final. But do you trust the Blues to still go and put it in on the final day? I sure don't. And I think the Chiefs have been playing well enough. So yeah, the cap. This is out of the couple sport games we have, samples games we have. It's one of the games we have this weekend. And plus Chiefs is one of my better punts.
Well, I must say the boys in the live chat are certainly agreeing with you. Chris saying that Chiefs plus is a gift. Farid says Chiefs all day, even with Tuipulotu back. I know that, and I haven't followed the team news too closely. I've also been driving around this week, but I believe the Chiefs are having to start their third choice hooker or something like that. I don't know how big a deal that is.
That's correct. Yeah, Tyrone Thompson. But and I did see the comment about Tuipulotu, and it wouldn't surprise me though if he was pulled before kickoff.
I agree. Or he's going to last 20 minutes.
Yeah, that wouldn't surprise me at all. I mean, I think everyone was massively surprised that he was named in the lineup. They were talking about a 7-week layoff or something. They were worried about him missing the tests, and then he turns around in 2 weeks and is ready to play. I'm a little bit dubious. I feel like I've seen this before.
Yeah.
And Nathan, what would you think? What would you say? Like, and I hear you because I've also seen it before. Do you think it's a case of them putting them in there, just hoping? Let's assume he does get pulled. Is it that they pull him in, put him in, just hoping he would make it? I mean, there's no tactical reason to stick his name in there, is there? Aside from hoping like hell he can play.
I mean, it could be some mind games involved, but yeah, it could be that you put the name on the team list and then he's there for kind of a very late fitness test, without actually saying that out loud. So yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think they are getting smarter about these things in terms of if you look at Stevenson before the semi-final, apparently by all accounts he basically pulled himself out of the lineup because he said, look, I think I'm okay to go, but he didn't want to jeopardize the team by actually going out there and finding that he was crocked after 20 minutes and had to come off, and they lost sub. So I guess players and teams being maybe a bit smarter about these things.
Right, 100%. Chris, let me come to you then on the points line on this game, 49.5. I mean, I guess I haven't looked at the weather, but I guess also sort of shows that it's a final at the end of the day, and there's probably going to be a real war. There's going to be a lovely game to watch, make no mistake, but it's going to be a war out there.
Yeah, well, that's it. So I normally get quite nervous with points when it comes to finals. I'm not really big on punting points on finals, but I totally agree. I think this is going to be a cracker, a humdinger, and we're going to see tit for tat, big defenses, mistakes, and it'll crawl up to 50 if it gets there. If it gets there, it's going to crawl over just. But if I was to go, I'll go in the unders. But I'll stay away from the points. I think I'm quite confident to take the Chiefs here.
And yourself, Nathan, what do you think of the points line? And any idea of the weather? I hadn't had a chance to check it out yet.
I haven't either.
I think it's good. What I thought was good. I think it was okay, but I know the weather better than Nathan, but I think it's okay for now.
So I haven't had a chance to have a look at it, so I'm a little bit out of the loop. Haven't also had a chance to run the points.
It's going to be fine
because I'm sort of reliant on the refereeing and the weather, which generally obviously come later in the week. And so, I just have, to be honest, just haven't had a chance to have a look at it. But if you ask me off the top of my head, like what kind of scoreline we're looking at, like you'd think it would be sort of 20 to 24. That seems like a typical kind of final scoreline.
Yeah, that 25-20 is a common
that's a nice one. Yeah. A few tries, a quiet period, and 2 or 3 penalties at the end, or seal it.
Yeah, I think, and I'm not quite sure how you would necessarily get at this from a betting perspective, but I do think if the Chiefs are able to get out to a fast start like they did against the Hurricanes, I think they'll be difficult to catch. Because I think the way the Blues are set up is we've talked about it before, very physical, very confrontational. They'll go down the middle, but not necessarily set up to score quickly. They're far more sort of attritional, grinding type rugby. So if they went, 14 points down early, I think they're not necessarily set up to come back and get into games.
Okay, just a quick one. I'm getting WhatsApps here from Mark Dunphy saying he's been blocked from the live chat. It says administrators banned him. Mark, it definitely wasn't me. I don't know what's happening. They must have some sort of agreement. It's a matter of interest. If anyone else is listening, please post if you can. Maybe you remember last week we had a bit of problem with YouTube. Could be the same problem. Maybe Chris, if you can try and post something.
Do you remember?
Oh, there we go. You actually on as an administrator, yeah. Okay.
Yes, because I've logged in when I last hosted. Well, I've obviously it's still logging me on your login, so I don't know. If that's caused, look, I didn't ban anyone, but I wonder if that's causing
No. But Mark, we'll. Sorry, man. I don't know. I can't do anything about it now, but I'll certainly try and look into that after the show. Sorry about that, man. I don't know what happened there. But anyways, gents, that's the Super Rugby. Of course, just the one game to talk about there. Let's move on now to the next game. And the reason I put World Sports Betting logo, I'm going to be in the World Sports Betting box. They, of course, sponsor the Blue Bulls. So I will be going. I happened to bump into the CEO in the shops the other day. And he said, "Oh, you're going to join us?" I said, "Oh, well, a mate of mine are probably going to try to get tickets." He said, No, come with us. So I'm going to be in the sponsors box. So really looking forward to that. And here we got a handicap. Bulls -9.5. Chris, this has edged out slightly since I saw it. It opened, I think, at 8.5 here in SA. At any rate, it has edged out slightly. And a points line of 53.5, obviously also factoring in the fact that it's a final.
Yeah, I actually might have seen higher than that on my UK sites. I saw it at about 10 somewhere as well. So it's moved around a bit. Yeah, I liked it at that number. So I must admit, I can't remember what I saw that I had it written down. It's getting in closer to where it should be. But this is fascinating, right? I mean, probably the two teams that weren't expected to be in the final. You got some intriguing form lines with the Bulls just scraping over against Benetton, and then that performance last week was what one in a couple of years looked like, right? I mean, that was a huge performance. Glasgow have been so solid. I mean, but what do you take? Stormers weren't great in the quarterfinal. I, of course, said last week on Twitter, Munster haven't been firing. I thought they were there for the taking, and Glasgow give them issues, and they did. But I think you can't write off. There's certainly got to be some regression from the Bulls, right? And then you've got to put in the fact of the Glasgows are traveling down to Loftus in 1 week. Turnaround is going to be hard for any team, right? So I think I was liking the Glasgow on the plus, but because of the travel factor with 1 week, I think in this competition, I think they should give it 2 weeks. I've seen some comments there that perhaps they should give it 2 weeks between the finals if the concerning teams might have to travel again. But okay, we're not there. This is where we are. So I was leading. Probably not as confident as the Chiefs plus, but I'm still going to go on the Glasgow plus because I don't think Glasgow are mugs. I think they're going to give. I think Bulls. If I know, and I mean, it's going to be packed out Loftus, and a fired up Loftus fires up that Bulls team every single time. But that Glasgow team is not. They're good. I watched their last 3 games quite closely, and they're a good side. They could give Bulls problems if Bulls drop below. If they drop back into round robin Bulls, then Glasgow are going to take them, get them close. But this is going to be a Bulls win. But slightly small confidence on the. I'll still go on the plus there because it's going to be a final. It could get edgy as finals do, but it's not as confident because yes, the Bulls can come fired up again. That Loftus crowd gets behind them. Glasgow won't know what hit them, and they'll be 20 points down before they know it could happen. So a small confident plus.
Johan saying still overs can happen even if it's a final. Johan, I agree with you there. I'm starting to think this line is getting to the point where it's going to tempt me at Loftus. Last week we had unders arrive probably for the first time in ages at Loftus. But I just have a feeling, and in fact, I think it might have hit Benetton as well, but I just have a feeling that although this is a final, we could get points. I just remember a final a few years ago, Bulls against Chiefs, where the Bulls absolutely
it was like 50,
over the Chiefs.
60, 40, something like that.
I can't read too much into that, though, because I think Nathan was probably about 9 years old when that game took place. But just got a feeling there could be points here. But Nathan, what do you reckon of this game?
Yeah, I think recollecting a game from probably about 15 years ago is maybe not the best guideline for what's going to happen this weekend. So I think there'd be some personnel changes since then. I'm quite firmly on the plus here, actually, and I'm definitely intrigued by Chris's mention of 10.5 being out there because I think that would be a great number. Yeah, I'm sort of projecting 6, and both these teams are actually on my kind of green list, which is where my models had a pretty good read on them over the course of the season, which means the ratings are sort of around about right. And I think, all the things we're saying about travel and all that stuff it's all relevant, but I think it's also baked into this number because, I think it would be, if they played on a neutral ground, I think this would be, probably close to a coin toss sort of thing. So, so as I said, I think it's baked in. The other thing I think is interesting is, and I don't necessarily think this is the right way to think about it, but if you are trying to find kind of mitigating circumstances or evidence to back things up, the Bulls in Glasgow played, relatively recently. I think it was, towards the end of the URC season, and the Bulls won by 6. I think it's a weakened Bulls team compared to what it was. It had, both those Springbok wingers. Willie LaRue was obviously in there, and Glasgow were not 100% at full strength, and still managed to get within 6. So I think there's a concept they talk about in the NFL. They talk about cluster injuries at certain positions. And so, it might be that, losing one winger isn't, such a big deal, and then losing 2. But, when you've lost your entire kind of back starting 3, potentially, I think that can then become an issue. And it sounds by all accounts, admittedly, I didn't see the game because, as I said, I don't actually watch that much. But that Willie LaRue was a standout, and I think they talked about his kicking was really instrumental, and I think kicking's always going to be hugely important in a final. So I think those factors they probably just start to add up to the point where you're thinking that yes, the Bulls are likely to win, but how likely are they to blow Glasgow out in a final? And yeah, as I said, I'm quite happy to back Glasgow at hopefully at 10.5 if I can find it.
Yeah, I'll message you if I see that again. Maybe I was dreaming it up, but I'm sure I saw a double digit there and I got excited. But no, I was going to say, just echoing Nathan's sentiment. On paper, this is no more than a 2-point difference team sheets, 3 teams. There's other factors. I think Bulls have been overhyped here, overpriced here, in my opinion, from last week. I think there's a few factors. Okay, Glasgow traveling, you need to put that in a factor. But if you had to put the sort of neutral ground, like Nathan said, side by side, there's not much difference in these teams. Glasgow could even edge it. So this is a nice number for Glasgow if you're on that side of the fence, yeah, of course. Because I can understand why people could get carried away, that the Bulls might get carried away.
And it means based on their points line, we might get a points line of about 21 or 22 on Glasgow. So that could, in fact, I remember being overs on them in the round robin game. Of course, they scored. They sort of came back at the Bulls then. But yeah, could be an interesting one. I'm actually starting to lean towards Glasgow points a little bit, listening to you guys talk, because I do think this is going to be a game where they'll take their kicks at posts. Blake is saying the Bulls played their final last week. It's interesting that he mentions that, like the Boks against France, because is there not an argument that Glasgow, Chris, also played their final last week?
No. Well, yes, but it was such a weird game. I actually ended up sitting watching that game because I think I had a final leg of some accumulators on there, so I was more invested than usual, as we do. No, but as I said, I watched a few of their games. No, look, I think Munster they were probably also more than Glasgow were good, but Glasgow were organised together. No, I don't think so. I just think like you've seen, even we go over, it's not easy to get on a plane, travel, to get settled, get it in, get packed. It's not easy. So why would Glasgow come and perform? But also that Bulls performance, that was definitely some kind of grudge going on there, right? The Bulls really had something out for those Leinster guys last week. Will they come with that intensity? I doubt. I've also seen the Bulls, that Bulls team that we talk about that hammered. I mean, that was a legendary team, right? We're talking the Matfield and the Buckies and Banners, and that was a completely different team sheet, right? But but let's face it, Jack White is also very good at this type of rugby, right? This is his bread and butter. So hopefully he'll get the guys ready. But hopefully if it's a Bulls fan. But yeah, just another few comments there.
Yeah, I mean, and there was
more disagreement in the live chat this time. Sorry, Nathan.
Yeah, I was just going to say, sorry, that, a lot of the the comments that are sort of firmly in the Bulls camp were the same kind of comments you were seeing about how Leinster were going to hammer them last week. So it's if there's a lesson in there somewhere, it's like not being overconfident that these lines are well set at this time of year. And the margins are going to be fine. So if you're turning up last week and saying Leinster easily, they're going to smash them. As I said, there's a lesson in there for you.
That Bulls performance was like England in 2019. That has that feel about it. That was like almost everything came together perfectly, and then they were flat as a bloody pancake the next week. And I wouldn't put it past this Bulls team that they will come out a little bit flat. But Glasgow could as well under the circumstances.
I'm going to give Nathan the final word on this game. I'm going to give Nathan the final word on this game. Nathan, I want you to read the first sentence here, just the first sentence here.
Bulls. Ons het nie van die flower FP.
Yes, 100%. You did very well there. It's Bulls.
You got the knee. You need to make the knee with the D as well.
Only off the floor. So no, I just wanted to have a bit of fun there.
Yeah, I think, yeah.
Just having a look at some of the comments in the live chat. But well done. You actually pulled that off pretty well. Bulls should win, but close, says Blake. Munster arrogant last week. Viking and Coombs on the bench and desperate pop passes. Yeah, that the Viking didn't do so well last week for Munster, I must say. And Fareed disagreeing with you, Chris. He says this is the kind of game that Jake White has actually been poor at for the last 15 years. So anyway, we've got a lot of opinions on this.
Well, ask Lens to that question in the last 2 out of the last 3 years.
Yeah, no, fair enough. But anyway, look, so we've got lots of differences of opinion. I must say, I'm not interested in the handicap in this game. I do like Glasgow points a bit, but I'm also looking at that overs points of 53.5. Perhaps it's just because I'm going to be at the ground. I'm going to be shouting home the points in that one. Right, let's move on. We've got a couple of internationals. I don't expect to go into too much depth in these, but I'll bring them up and you guys can let me know if you've got any views. Chris, I'll start with you on South Africa against Wales. Two very changed teams have been named here. Of course, the Bulls can't play. I think the international window is not open yet. So we've really got a team, a very good South African team, but a very, at the same time, raw South African team in terms of combinations and stuff like that. And then up against the Wales side, that the Welsh guys on the forum are saying we should take 30 points here. And we've got a handicap of 19.5. What do you think on this one?
Sure. Again, I think it's quite a bit to unpack here as well. As I said, with the teams that have been selected on both accounts. And also, the Wales, South Africa, Wales gave us South Africa a hard time for a good couple of years, didn't they? They were often they were always on the plus again, on the cap. They beat us a few times, if you can remember. We weren't playing well against. It was just one of those teams that got under our bonnet and seemed to match us. But that was when they were firing. Those were those Grand Slam teams, nearly beating us to get into the 90 World Cup, right? But this is a completely different team. I think the teams have drifted away from each other. South Africa's obviously on the up. Wales are rebuilding, so you can't look at any of that form, obviously. So I'm going to tell you, you're probably going to laugh at what I'm going to say now because I've said this, I think, for the last 5 years. The first game of the season, any international season, and it's made me money. We don't start well in the first half. We're not good starters. I went and just did my checks again over the last 5 years. I actually, just out of interest sake, we played Wales on the opening game of the season twice in the last 5 years. I'll tell you the scores now, but I know you can't compare because it's gone. But when I was looking at it, 2018 we played Wales in the first game. We were 14-3 down at halftime, and then went on to win comfortably. And in 2022, I don't know if you remember, we were actually 18-3 down before he came through in the second half and powered through. But also, the point is, I actually place this bet quite often, the plus handicap against Africa. So I don't know how this game's going to go. It feels like the warm-up last year. It's got that same feel that we could just get in the game and start overpowering. I think we're going to score loads of power tries. We're going to get in that 22 bash away, and we're just going to grind the Welsh team away. I think Wales will be fired up. So, and another bet that's won a lot for me is the second half highest scoring. We've spoken about this before, but this has won me good 70% of the time South Africa booked matches. I punted it in that warm-up last year, and it won by one. It was a hair-raising one, but it did win by one. But it has won about 4 or 5 out of the last 7-8 times. So I'm going to punt it again. I think the combinations are, you got a hooker that hasn't played in 9 months. You got a 8, 9, a 9, 10, 12 that haven't played together. I can't see how South Africa will come out firing, but maybe they will. But I think they're going to need about 20, 30 minutes to get into the work. So I'm going to confidently punt the second half as the highest scoring again. I think the Welsh will come out firing, but the Boks poison will eventually strangle them. And they've got a good bench, the Boks. I don't think they'll come through in the second half. So I'm going to punt the second half again. It's worked in the first game of the season for me, and it's worked against Wales. I'm going to stick to what's worked for me. So second half high scoring is my best player, because I think the game could, if it gets scrappy, then the cap's a bit high. But I think anything can happen. We don't know what these combinations are going to do. New coaching system as well, right? So we don't know how these guys are going to play under some new coaches. So we don't know yet. So I would rather just see how it goes.
I must say, Chris, you had me quite confused at times. But
sorry,
I like that second half. No problem. Chris is saying he knows a thing about Welsh rugby, doesn't recognise any of the never heard of 6 of the starting team, but South Africa don't pitch up for friendlies, and that's also a good point. And Johanna's also saying South Africa never put Wales away. So, yes, Nathan, I know this is not a game I'm sure you've focused on, but what does your sort of gut tell you on this one?
Well, I haven't seen the teams, that's the first thing, but obviously I'm sort of gleaning from what you guys are saying that Wales have definitely not brought the A team. So where is this game being played?
Twickenham.
Twickenham.
Interesting. Yeah, that's actually in England, right. Twickenham.
Yeah. Okay. That's interesting. I was sort of trying to figure out whether it was at altitude or not, but here we go. It's definitely not. Okay, that's interesting. And so the All Blacks, we always talk about this first game of the season and being slow starters. It's like kind of notorious for that sort of thing. Like that, we generally don't put it together in the first game. Sort of get a win. It's usually perhaps comfortable, but not emphatic. And is that something that you kind of feel that the Springboks do as well?
Yeah, I've watched. That's why I mentioned it in my confusing spiel there. But yes, it's worked. I bet on it a few times. Yeah, the Boks, generally the first half for sure. Maybe not the whole game. They get into their work, but the first 30 minutes, lots of mistakes, rustiness, and that's normally with teams that are okay. The team last year against Wales, what I spoke about was full strength, but that Georgia was a changed team, and I think they only scored 10 points in the first half, or not a lot, 14. So it's a whole. We got Hendricks at 10. You got Marks coming back after his injury. I'll be surprised if they come in and hit the front foot run, and that's just my read, and because I've seen it before, so that's why. But the Wales team is poor, so we could easily power over 5 tries in the first half for sure. I mean, that's the risk. That's there.
Yeah. I mean, it will be, I guess, interesting to see the points total as well and what the first half points line looks like, because I suppose it's a similar thing, right, where you've got two teams probably just feeling things out through the early stages of the game and possibly not high scoring. But in a way, I guess what you're saying is probably a better way to get at it.
Yeah. What I normally see is like you'll see maybe 2 or 3 wasted opportunities in the first half, and then those opportunities that are wasted in the first half come together in the second. That's the flow and the trends I've noticed. Like you said, even New Zealand, most teams do it. And because this is such a changed book team, I think they probably might need the time to get themselves settled. But the thing is this is a truly dismal Wales side. So are they going to? But I think for me, I'm hoping that Wales come out firing. They put all their eggs in their basket in the first 20 minutes, blow themselves out after 30 minutes, keep the Boks out maybe a little bit. But then I think the second half, unless the Boks get way ahead and start just mucking around in the second half, that's the risk, as you know. It is more of a guessing pick, if you want to call it. But again, this isn't guessing because it has something that I've looked at and played on previously that has worked.
Yep. No, I like the logic behind it. I think it's sound.
So, guys, I must say, on this particular game, I am leaning towards points a little bit. I had a look at the weather at Twickenham. There is a bit of rain in the morning, but it should be comfortably cleared up. And I always find that Twickenham is a ground where, when there's not too much on the game, and I know this is a test match, but I think both teams playing on neutral territory at the end of the day, although it's going to feel, I think, a lot like a home game for South Africans. It's not as much on it as, for example, if they're playing perhaps in front of their own crowd. I think there's going to be an element of entertainment rugby about this as well, without being ridiculous. Not Barbarian style. Barbarians are actually playing just afterwards. But I think this could. I like the 52.5. So I'm going to go overs here on points at 52.5, and that's going to be my play in that game.
That was my second. That was my second pick, Brent. I agree. The Boks can get the 52 on their own. So, and that's another thing. If you're feeling brave and you think the Boks are that strong, there's value to just back the Boks at a higher cap, because it really is on the cards if you feel that way. Yeah,
I'm just trying to work out 19.5, 30p. Wales probably 16.5. South Africa probably about 35, 36. I might go overs even on South Africa points.
No, I agree. South Africa are going to get in the 40s at least. Yeah, I think South Africa could easily break 50 on their own.
Right. So, leaning towards that direction. Let's quickly have a look at the other international on this weekend. Chris, I'll start with you there. Japan plus 21.5 against England. Points 54.5. I'm going to start you off by saying I've got no opinion on this one.
No, but England have picked a very strong side, pretty much the strongest side, because I think this is a bit of a grudge match, right? It's Borthwick versus Eddie. So it's going to be interesting. And I think Eddie he starts quite well, doesn't he? I think, if I'm not mistaken, when he takes on a team, so he's probably going to have them fight. But to be honest, I haven't followed Japan rugby. At the World Cup is when I'm a Japan fan, and then that's about it. So I don't really, to be honest, I don't know what's going on the Japan side, and I'm not going to have a firm view yet because not enough. Just as I know that's a good England side, so that's all I know.
100%. Farid is saying Japan is an experimental side. And Nathan, I'm guessing you don't have any firm views on this one.
Yeah, like I haven't seen the team at all. I'm just actually bringing it up to have a quick look through. And
the England team or the
Japan team.
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
I mean, I see Michael Leach is there, and Amanaki Mafi, who anybody who watched us,
the old stalwarts. So.
Yeah. I don't recognize some of the other names in the front row. The rest of the team is there are another guys recognized from back in the day, but
yeah.
Blake
England also
6 or 7 players on debut for Japan, so he's predicting a big England win.
England gained momentum over six. I mean, there's been a break, but if they carry on the momentum they've taken from the Six Nations, they should steamroll Japan. But
actually, sorry, I'm just now that I look at it closely, this is actually a team from 2021. So I just googled it. It wasn't that easy to find.
Yeah, I was trying to find referee appointments earlier, and I found them in the end. But I was looking for Super Rugby referee appointments, and I started reading, and I was like thinking, and then I realized it was also from 2022 or something like that. You got to be careful with Google sometimes. Before we get on to the best bets, guys, let's just discuss. I wanted to actually get a comment from Farid. He says top 14 semis this weekend.
Yeah,
some great value on the prices. Nathan, have you had a look at the top 14 semis at all? Is it something you'd get involved in?
Yeah, it's interesting because I was doing top 14 and Pro D2 through the early part of the season, and Pro D2 was actually pretty successful.
I love Pro D2.
Top 14. I started to, it sort of became like a 50-50 proposition. And when I feel like I'm flipping coins, I'm not going to persist with that. So I felt like I got to a point where I felt like I just needed to go back to the drawing board a little bit. And I didn't have a great feel for those leagues because I think there's obviously the kind of the language barrier. You're not picking up some of the news in the way that you can with, Prem Rugby or URC. So I just, although the results were good, I got a feeling, certainly from top 14, that I was flipping coins, and in Pro D2 that maybe I'd just been a bit lucky, if I'm honest. And I didn't want to kind of keep going down that route when I wasn't convinced about what I was doing. So I kind of parked those, and that's something I'll look at like during the off season. I'll kind of go back to it, and I had a model that I think was sort of successful when I looked at this season, but then when I went back and looked at past seasons, it wasn't as good, and that's always a warning sign for me. If I can't sort of prove over the previous 3 seasons that it works, then I think there's something wrong. And I think I was kind of a bit overly ambitious. Like I just thought I can do the same thing for these leagues that I could for the others. And I think in the short term it worked. But as I said, you kind of need to be honest with yourself. And I did feel, hey, maybe I'm just getting a bit lucky here, and I don't really have a good feel for what's going on. And I think there are dynamics in some of those French leagues that I'm not picking up. And I think part of it might be promotion and relegation. I think that throws a bit of a spanner in the works that you can't necessarily kind of factor in or need to go away and have a think about. So there was that, and I think the home road differential, especially in Pro D2, is pretty wild. And I think the motivation of some of these teams. I read a great article about Pro D2 actually the other day, and it was talking about how it's this kind of they have this crazy mix of like nationalities, because people will come from around the world to play in this league and try to showcase themselves, and then maybe get a pro contract somewhere else if they can. So they have this huge number of nationalities. Sorry, I've got a 3-year-old running around behind me. Completely lost my train of thought there, but
that's one way to get your train of thought. You were taking the article about the diverse people coming together.
So, and the season is so long; it's like 30 games that they are very tactical about when they play certain players. not going to roll out the same team week after week, and that makes it quite difficult to kind of predict lineups and be sort of consistent. It's just a difficult one to. It needs some specific attention. I couldn't just replicate what I was doing elsewhere. So yeah, long story.
So Chris, as I come into you on that one, just to read a couple of comments. Farid is saying very hard to model on the French because they play the second teams every week, and he says you have to build a handicap and player ranking system to make sense of the French leagues. And then back to the semis, Chris reckons Toulouse v La Rochelle should be a cracker. What do you fancy?
Absolutely. I love it, Toulouse La Rochelle, but just right on the cap, it's 9, I believe it is. I would say that's quite high, even though Toulouse have been super good and impressive. Like I said, I think the La Rochelle was supposed to. They weren't supposed to win last week either, and they always get themselves up for Toulouse. So I think that's a cracker. I think they're in that game. I think 9 points is too high. So, like I said to you earlier before we came on, I enjoy watching the French rugby, but I don't bet on it, and I'm never confident. If I make a prediction, but yeah, that's just my comments. So I mean, La Rochelle to lose in a knockout.
And do you watch it on a streaming service? Just because you're in South Africa at the moment, are you able to watch it still? Do you watch it? Do you stream it? Because we don't get it on TV, of course.
Yeah, before I came to South Africa, I was watching. Yes. We had it on English TV. I think Sky was. It was definitely on.
No, but that's what I'm asking. Now that you're in SA, are you still able to?
No, to be honest, I haven't been watching the French this season. No, same as Nathan. I mean, I've bet on the Pro D now 2-3. So me and Dave Cooney, we've got a little Thursday bet we'll place every Thursday on the Pro D, and it's been good for us. And like I said, because it's almost like it's home away. Like in the top 14, home away is there. It's pretty much, we always say in doubt, just back the home team in France, right? But Pro D2 is like, Nathan, I think you can back me up. It's like completely almost home and away, like 90%, I think probably. Because they literally will take a B team to the away game, or all of them will literally almost take a B team to the away game. So like to go find the form factor, to look at the team sheets, you look at the 3 games and you can't find any continuity or anything. So it's very tough. But yeah, but my point is, the business end of the season, my point is La Rochelle to lose the full strength sides, knockout game, that 9 points is, but I'm going to say is just from a pure rugby punter and fan and watching, that's a bit high. That's just going to be, I know Toulouse have been great, but it's still crunch time, and La Rochelle will be up for it.
I enjoyed this comment, Nathan, from WJS. Looking at your 3-year-old running around, it says, start talking about the Welsh attack. That should send him to sleep. I enjoy that one. Not much to talk about there, that's for sure. And top 14 coverage is difficult in SA, says for it. Only YouTube replays is reliable. Okay, chaps, that brings us to the end of the show. Not a lot of games to talk about, but I will ask you to nail down perhaps your best player of the games that we've spoken about. Chris, I'll start with you.
Yeah, I don't have like proper standouts per se, but definitely love it. My favorite bet, my 2 or 3 favorites are the Chiefs, like the Chiefs of the plus there. The Wales second half, which I mentioned, but if you don't like to play that bet, I know a lot of people don't. The over 52 as my next best. So plus Chiefs second half or overs in the South African game.
Farid says start Francais on the plus as well as versus UBB. That's Bordeaux, eh?
Yeah, home. Yeah, home plus. That's you don't often see it, so that's again a good shot actually.
And then Johan coming in with his treble, Chiefs plus 5.5, over 53.5 in Bulls Glasgow, and Boks Wales over 52.5. I like that one quite a bit as well. Although I'm a little bit more undecided on the Chiefs game, I must be honest. I suppose a bit of a Blues fan in me all these years, and maybe I'm getting swayed there. Right, Nathan, what is your sort of sum up of the weekend?
Yeah, I'll be on Glasgow. I'm not sure exactly what number it will be because I think it's going to be dependent a little bit on when the lineups come out. But hoping for a good number, and to be honest, without wishing ill on anybody, hoping that Willie LaRue's out. As I said, I think that would be an interesting factor. I'm sure he's a lovely guy, but I'm going to be selfish here and hope he's out. So I'll be on Glasgow.
Yeah.
That's a
but also, but I see also comments that England game. I don't know what the word is going to be like, but it's sticking out because I think that's when it's a mismatch like the Boks Wales. It looks like another big mismatch. Low 50 points is a nice number to be taken on because England could easily steam. Look, I don't know because I wish I had looked at it a bit more, but it feels like England could do a job. Maybe England points there is a good look at if you can get a good line around 30, 35.
So we've got Reverend coming in from New Zealand, of course, saying thanks, guys. Great season. Good luck for the finals. Go the Blues. So there's someone in the Blues camp. Gents, that brings us to the end of the show. I don't think there's much more rugby-wise to chat about. Chris, great having you back on. And Nathan, as always, I imagine you'll take a bit of a gap now, Nathan, for the internationals, and hopefully we'll link up again in a few weeks.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'll be kind of spending some time gearing up for NPC. To be honest,
yeah, I love NPC as well. I love it.
I do love betting NPC.
Me too.
It's kind of a sprint rather than a marathon, and it's a very consistent competition. And being all based in New Zealand, you get really good weather data, and I think that helps a lot with the points. We've got a particularly good Met service here.
But I must say, guys, I don't know about you guys, I've actually enjoyed this first half of the season. It's been compared to the last two Super Rugbies and URCs. I've got buying into the URC big time now, and I've been well invested in the Super. It's been a nice Super Rugby tournament as well. It's been a good first half of the year. So looking forward to the next half.
For anyone who's following my newsletter will know it hasn't been the greatest first half of the year. I find it's funny because when I've got lots of money in my accounts, I tend to play much better. But I've had to.
Yes, me too. Like, when you free reel in, it's much better.
Yeah, I'm not the type who deposits and withdraws each week. I like to have nice balances, and I've had to draw money for various reasons. And now that my balances are a bit thin, my form's gone a little bit haywire. But yeah, plenty of good rugby coming up. As Fareed says, we've got the under-20s, and of course we've got the internationals. But thanks to the lads on the live show. We will be back next week to talk international rugby on the Handicap, the Rugby Chat That Matters. Thanks, everyone.